So I was working on some regularly scheduled silly mythology cartoons when I got hit up by the people at Pearl Abyss who were like, "Hey, we make the popular MMO Black Desert Online, and we saw that you make silly mythology cartoons, so we thought you'd like to know about our game's new expansion, The Land of the Morning Light, which adds a whole new region and bosses inspired by the mythology of the Korean Joseon dynasty and has whole quest lines based on traditional folktales from that era. And maybe you could, make a video explaining some of those folktales and how they tie into our game, as part of an ethically disclosed sponsorship, of course." And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And that's this video you're watching now. Alright, let's get started. So the Joseon dynasty began in 1392 when Lee Sang-gae came into power. His family would continue to rule Korea for over 500 years, during which the nation made some of its most notable contributions to art, literature, science, technology, and of course they produced a rich mythological tradition, which I got to dive into for the first time in order to make this video. One mythical creature I saw showing up over and over again was Gumiho, the nine-tailed fox, which of course was the inspiration for the boss of the Tale of the Gumiho questline in Land of the Morning Light. The creators of Black Desert pulled from classic stories of this being to help shape their version of the character. Now, fox spirits show up all throughout East Asian mythology, but unlike the Japanese kitsune or the Chinese huliqing, which are often but not always depicted as good or neutral beings, the Gumiho is always a malevolent creature, as we see in the story of the Fox Sister. Once there was a father who, despite being blessed with 3 sons, always wanted a daughter, and he prayed to the gods saying he would accept any child, even if she was a fox. The gods listened, probably more closely than he intended, and soon enough his wife gave birth to a baby girl. And from that point forward, everything was totally normal and fine. Until about 5 years later, when every morning one of their cows would be found dead. The father told each of his sons to stay up and watch the cows to find out what was going on. However, when the 2 eldest sons reported back that they saw their sister come and eat the cows' livers, their father accused them of lying and banished them from his household. The youngest brother, despite seeing the same thing, decided not to say anything and was spared his father's anger. Dick move, little bro. The eldest brothers, now homeless, spent several years studying with a Buddhist monk. When the brothers decided to visit their hometown again, the monk gave them 3 magic gourd bottles that would protect them from evil spirits. Upon returning to their village, they found it completely abandoned with their house in ruins. The only person remaining was their sister, who was now a lovely young woman, and she invited them to stay the night. But that night, the eldest woke up to discover his sister eating his dead brother's liver, and he said, "Oh, that's right, you're a f***ing fox demon." And he attacked her with the magic bottles. That'll teach you to kill my family. I miss my family. A common trait of the Gumiho is how they acquire their life energy by taking it from other living beings, usually with the goal of gaining enough to ascend to heaven or become a human or something. In this story I just told, the Gumiho does it by eating the livers of her victims. However, in other stories, they sap people's energy by using a magic orb kept in their mouths, and it's said that these orbs can grant wisdom when a human obtains and swallows them. If you look down before the orb dissolves in your stomach, you'll gain all the wisdom of Earth, and if you look up, you'll gain all the wisdom of heaven. Naturally, any character in a story who swallows a fox orb tries to do both, but their attempts to look up are always thwarted, leaving them with just the wisdom of Earth. Black Desert does an interesting twist on how they characterize their Gumiho boss. In the Tale of the Gumiho questline, you encounter Mihun, a fox spirit who once used her magical powers to help heal the sick, but has now lost her magical orb and seeks revenge on a band of fox hunters. The more you learn about Mihun's backstory and why she's so bent on revenge, no spoilers, the more you begin to sympathize with her. This is a big departure from traditional versions of the Gumiho, who are almost always completely evil trickster spirits. I'm always happy to see classic character archetypes turned on their head to display more depth in humanity, or Gumianity in this case. So I gotta give big points to Black Desert on that. Another questline in the Land of the Morning Light where you can tell the devs really did their homework is the Tale of the Mudong Wraith. This storyline centers around a girl named Bari, whose disappearance is tied to other mysterious events in the area. As her story unravels, you'll discover all the interesting ways that the questline combines elements from different Korean myths. One such myth is the famous story of the woodcutter and the heavenly maiden. Once there was a poor woodcutter who, while working in the forest, encountered a young deer running from a hunter. The deer begged him for help, so he let it hide in a pile of wood. "Hey, did you see a deer come by here by any chance? About 2.5 feet, terrified, pleading for its life." "Oh yeah, that one. It went, vaguely in that direction. Thanks, man." Filled with gratitude, the deer then told the woodcutter of a secret lake in the forest, where heavenly maidens came down from the sky to bathe on the night of each full moon. He went there and stealthily took the clothes of the youngest maiden, without which she'd be unable to ascend back up to heaven. And as the night came to an end, the poor woman had to be left behind by her companions. Excuse me, ma'am. Sorry. I was just strolling by on my usual midnight walk through this secluded forest, and you looked like you needed help, so I just... Are you sure you actually didn't steal my magic clothes in order to trap me down here and then take advantage of my vulnerable situation under the pretense of being a nice guy just trying to help me? Because honestly, that would be super hot. Do you want to get married? Oh, sure, yeah. This went a lot better than I reasonably could have expected it to. The two of them then became happily married and started having kids together. But the woodcutter's wife always longed to eventually return to her home in the sky, much to his increasing guilt. He was advised by the deer not to return her clothes until she had borne him at least 3 children. But after their second child, his conscience couldn't handle it any longer, and he gave his wife back her garments. She then immediately put them back on and ascended back up into the sky, carrying their 2 children with her in her arms. Heartbroken, the woodcutter returned to the forest to tell the deer about his experience. The deer told him that ever since he stole his wife's clothes, the heavenly maidens now sent down buckets to collect water from the secret lake instead of going down there themselves. The woodcutter came there on the night of the next full moon and emptied one of the buckets to hide himself inside. He was then lifted up all the way into the heavenly kingdom, where he joyfully reunited with his family, and all was well once again. Until the woodcutter began to miss his mother, and he asked his wife if he could shortly visit Earth again. Reluctantly, she gave him a flying horse to ride back down on, but he was warned that should he at any point dismount his steed and touch the surface of the ground, he could never again return to heaven. With this in mind, the woodcutter went down to spend time catching up with his mom, all while staying on top of the horse as instructed. Before leaving, however, his mom insisted that he have some dinner and brought him a bowl of his favorite pumpkin soup. Knowing the dangers of refusing a meal from a Korean mother, he took the bowl, but some of the hot soup dripped on the horse's back. The horse reared up, knocking the woodcutter onto the ground, and then flew off without him. Devastated at once again being separated from his wife and children, the woodcutter died of loneliness, and his spirit is said to be inhabiting roosters whenever they cry up at the sky. Another unique supernatural romance from Korean mythology that ties into the Mudong Wraith questline is the story of the snake husband. And yes, the title is very self-explanatory. Once there was an elderly couple who, after many years of wanting a child, finally gave birth to a snake. Just a straight-up baby snake. However, their son's implausible physiology didn't stop them from loving him just as much as they would any regular non-freak of nature kid. Their neighbors had 3 daughters who visited to see the new child. The 2 eldest sisters were a bit put off by the sight of him. The youngest, well, she was different. When he became old enough to marry, whether in snake years or human years, I'm honestly not sure, his parents asked the sisters if any of them would offer their hand. Needless to say, only one of them was interested. On their wedding night, the snake husband shed his skin, revealing himself to be a handsome young man underneath. And so his bride was rewarded for having been able to see past his former grotesque appearance. Yay. The husband told his wife to keep his skin safe and to never let anyone else see or touch it. However, one day when he was away from home on a trip to Seoul, his wife's jealous sisters found the snake skin and burned it, and the husband sensed that his wife's promise was broken and never returned home. The wife then set out on a long journey to Seoul to reunite with her love and ask for his forgiveness. But her progress was slow as she made a point to help out any people in need who happened to cross her path. In the end, she finally found her husband, to whom she told the story of her travels, and with her having proven her virtue, the couple reunited and lived happily ever after. Mostly. When you play through the Mudong Wraith questline, you'll immediately spot elements borrowed from these 2 stories. You find out that Bari is the daughter of a woodcutter and a celestial maiden, and that she was born as a snake. After her father cast her into the falls, she was discovered by an elderly couple who adopted her, and she transformed into a human girl. Now, I'm barely scratching the surface of the story here. Again, I don't want to drop any huge spoilers on you, but you can already see all the interesting ways the folks at Pearl Abyss have woven together separate myths into one story. I think it's pretty rad to see people remixing elements from ancient mythology and making something new out of it, while still clearly knowing and respecting the source material. And there's still even more rich lore to find behind all the other Land of the Morning Light bosses. The tale of the Sungakshi was inspired by the Joseon-era superstition that deceased unmarried women would come back as ghosts. And the tale of the Doksini was inspired by mischievous creatures called Dokubi, which can be thought of as the Korean equivalent to goblins or the Oni of Japanese mythology. I honestly wish I could do deep dives on all of these, but I only have time to tell one more myth because sponsored videos have tight deadlines. So now I want to retell my favorite Korean myth that I learned while making this video, the story of the rabbit's liver. There was a dragon king living under the ocean who one day came down with a terrible sickness. Well, Your Majesty, the results are in, and I'm afraid you have turbo cancer. Which is totally curable. Oh, yep, all you need to restore yourself back to perfect health is to eat the liver of a rabbit. Oh, cool, I'll go get one of those right away. What is a rabbit? The king asked his subjects to go up to the surface to bring him a rabbit, but almost all of them declined on account of being, fish. The only volunteer was the sea turtle because they can be in the ocean and on land. Or maybe this is supposed to be an etiological myth for how they attain that ability? I don't know. Anyway, the turtle dutifully traveled up to the surface in search of a rabbit for the king. Hey there, you're a rabbit, right? Well, technically I'm a hare, which is also in the Leporidae family, but I'm in the Lepus genus, while rabbits belong to the orc. Okay, that's close enough. So, do you want to come with me and hang out down in the Dragon King's underwater kingdom? That sounds fun, but how am I gonna breathe underwater? That's the neat thing, you don't. And so the rabbit traveled down into the underwater kingdom on the back of the turtle. And we're not supposed to worry about the logistics. Ah, right on time. Let's get this started. Whoa, what's going on here? Yeah, I may have lured you here under false pretense. The king needs to eat your liver in order to cure his turbo cancer. Yeah, and pardon the pun, but chop chop, we need it now. Oh, well, why didn't you just say so? I left my liver back at home, dude. You can't expect me to keep that thing on me 24/7. Wow, I am so sorry, guys. I'm embarrassed. This is totally my bad. I should have been straight with you. Hey, no worries, man. Come on, let's hurry back up and go get it. It'll be like 10 minutes tops. But as soon as the turtle carried him back to the surface, the rabbit leapt off his back and raced off into the forest, never to be seen again. Now, if you're wondering how this story ties into Black Desert, you might just find out if you check out their other free update that just came out, the Sea Palace Summer Event. That's right, this was a double promotion this whole time. Man, I'm great at selling out. So if you want to experience everything Black Desert Online has to offer, the Sea Palace update and the Land of the Morning Light with its new quest lines and bosses, you can jump right in. The game has a 7-day free trial you can sign up for in the link in the description. And you can go straight into the Land of the Morning Light quests as a brand new player without even having to level grind beforehand. Thanks to Black Desert for sponsoring this video, and for giving me an excuse to learn about Korean folklore. Man, there's a lot of mythology out there. You can make a whole YouTube channel about it.